The year 2024 is coming to an end, and before we head into 2025, I want to talk about the things I've learned through Katseye and their documentary Popstar Academy. Let's start with the positive things nobody wants to talk about concerning Popstar Academy. Mental health consultations with psychologists in survival shows. That's a phenomenal idea, and I think we need to see this more. But since these consultations were filmed, it defied its purpose. But it was still great to see someone explain to the contestants that people are projecting their identities onto them, and the things people say about them aren't based on who they are as a person. And we got an insight into how labels prepare for a group's debut. For example, it was new to me that brand deals are done before the group is even formed. That was very interesting. And right here is where the positive comments about the show end for me. There was just much more things to worry and question about all of the things the contestants went through. Let's start with the training and development system, which aimed to be a replica of the K-pop training system. It absolutely failed at doing so, especially because the dancing and singing was separated during training. The girls were not well prepared for the survival show, and in general, the focus was much more on dancing, which kind of gives K-pop a bad rap. If this was my first time getting into K-pop adjacent stuff, I would believe after watching this documentary that K-pop idols are dancers who sing. And sometimes, you got to address the issue at its source. I do not see enough people put the blame and criticize Bang Sihyuk, the producers and coaches, for anything. Instead, y'all decided to fucking harass the contestants. Bang Sihyuk is the problem. Bang Sihyuk is the cause for most of the problems. I still do not see why he was barely blamed for the emotional distress the girls went through their trainee days. He rushed Dream Academy at the expense of the contestants' mental and physical health, and most importantly, the girls were not mentally prepared for this. They were not prepared to be ripped apart by strangers on the internet the way that they were. Right at their public announcement, the girls were told they'll compete in the survival show. The girls had 1 month. The girls had about 1 month to prepare for Dream Academy. 1 month to train singing and dancing together. 1 month to get media training. And 1 month to learn camera etiquette. No wonder this turned into a fucking shit show. And in the meanwhile, they were still searching for contestants. Like Yoonchae, Hinari, Yua, Samara. They had even less training of that. All of this because motherfucking Bang Sihyuk thinks if you see quick improvement in a trainee, it's important to move on to the debut phase because they might plateau in talent. After barely 1 year of training, I understand that after 1 year of training, it was sort of time to head towards the debut phase, but his explanation makes no sense. If you compare this to K-pop, most K-pop idols train for more than a fucking year to reach their fucking talent abilities that they have right now. Like, the fuck was he talking about? I highly doubt the average person plateaus so quick in talent. Knowing all of this, right? I still am confused. I wonder why most watchers lack so much compassion for the girls. Y'all haters lack compassion. You all know, we are all aware, most of the contestants have never been in front of a camera like that. They have never been judged by millions of people online for things they said when they were in a very vulnerable state of mind. And you were surprised how some of the girls acted the way they did? In general, it's obvious they did not think the show through. For example, there is no way these motherfucking coaches were genuinely surprised that teenage girls have private Instagram accounts where they post stuff about their training phase. Like, for example, apparently, Naisha posted one of the original songs there. But how dare teenage girl be naive and not be aware of what they're doing? What? Isn't that crazy? To put so much pressure and expect teenage girls to be aware of all of these fucking rules. Be for real. And then there's motherfucking Missy, who was scared the girls would be judged based on their ethnicity. But they made the premise of this show. The premise of the show was that the girls represent their ethnic background. What did they expect would fucking happen? The girls will be judged based on their ethnicity. They really did not think this shit through at all. Some of these motherfucking coaches and producers aren't receiving enough backlash. And I'm angry to not see that happening online. Firstly, I wish we could talk more about the lack of transparency and breach of trust. The girls were not properly emotionally prepared to be in a survival show. And if you look back at the announcement of the results in Mission 2, the girls were told nobody would see who they wanted to be within their little group or whatever, if they could form the group at the end. But guess what? They exposed it all to us. Another aspect I haven't seen some talk about is in the episode that talks about Mission 3. Missy tells the watchers that for the Pussycat Dolls Buttons performance, they only chose contestants over 18 because otherwise it would be inappropriate. But at the beginning of the documentary, we saw Yua, who was, I think, 14 at the time, 13 or 14 at the time, dance to that motherfucking song when they were training. Lying ass bitches. Mitra is the actual villain, guys. Mitra is the actual villain. The eliminations of Mission 2. The breach of trust and lack of transparency was her idea for more entertainment at the cost of the girls' mental health. The girls were told nobody will see who they voted for, right? According to her, they needed a more compelling storyline and tried to do it in a way that is not disrespectful. And she's happy the viewers loved it. Why is Mitra not receiving as much hate as Adela? That's what I do not get, because Mitra should actually receive hatred for that. Like, it's so evil to pit teenage girls against each other like that, knowing this will cause many girls to be massively online bullied. Of course, next I have to talk about Missy and Nikki, who were terrible coaches. Missy was extremely unprofessional, too emotional for this job, and she was quite racist. For example, she said that Naisha is too aggressive and they needed someone with a more masculine dance style, and she personally really hated Manon. And then there's Nikki. I do not see too many people talk about how bad Nikki was as a coach. Throughout watching Popstar Academy, I felt so bad for Hinari because Nikki kept scolding her. She kept being so passive-aggressive towards this girl and complaining she wasn't progressing in her skills, whatever, and she can't keep up. But totally ignores that Hinari can't really comprehend her because her English is not that good. And the other contestants, thankfully, had much more patience and were much kinder to Hinari and helped her. And they had to talk to her with fucking Google Translate. Why did the show not provide a fucking translator for the Japanese members? Why? There's ain't no way this wasn't in their budget. Also, thank God Estrella was on the show and this girl can speak Japanese and was able to help her. And also props to Adela for aiding just everyone out, you know? And that's one of the reasons why y'all will never make me fully hate Adela, because she basically raised those little girls. She helped them so much and did much more than Nikki did. I'm sorry. Nikki kept pissing me off. Because why are you being so aggressive towards this little girl who can't fucking understand you? I feel like the only good coach that was on Popstar Academy and Dream Academy was fucking Sun. He was the only professional coach, I feel like, who truly wanted to help these girls. And of course, I cannot end this video before I talk about Manon. Manon, a failed attempt to portray a positive character arc. It seems that some people struggle with seeing black girls thrive and succeed. Manon in particular stands out as someone who, for the first time in a long time, at least I've seen, triggers a lot of people simply by existing. Her very presence appears to challenge the stereotypes and biases people hold about black people. She seems to embody qualities that many are uncomfortable acknowledging in a black person. Beauty, talent, success, hardworking, humility, a willingness to change. I mean, unlike other contestants, she didn't have to endure extreme suffering to achieve her current position in the group, you know? And that reality seems to really upset and unsettle many people online, you know? Not only that, people often react negatively when they perceive that a black person is given preferential treatment or multiple chances, but yet they remain indifferent when the same happens for white people, you know? A clear example of this kind of double standard is seen with Emily and the way she was treated on this show. Disclaimer, I'm not trying to pit Emily and Manon against each other. I mean, these two are friends, they get along. I just want to show you what I've noticed while watching this documentary, okay? Emily has always been one of the coaches' favorite. And I think if it was up to the coaches, she would have been in Katseye despite her inability to sing well, okay? Her voice was relatively weak and she was inconsistent in pitch. Yet she was always ranked high in the evaluation. And even today, you will find people online, on social media, argue about why Emily didn't make it into Katseye, showing support for her. I mean, she deserves support, she's an amazing dancer. But are we not gonna ignore that she is not that skilled in singing? Another thing I noticed is that throughout Dream Academy, Emily barely had to sing. She had to barely properly sing during the show, except for like the finale, if we're being honest. And I feel despite this, she was constantly pushed forward. And I think if it was low-key up to some of the coaches, she would have debuted in Katseye and would have been the Shotaro of the group, if you get what I mean. So, But now let's dive more into Manon's preferential treatment she has received from the beginning in her lore, Loki. Another disclaimer, this video is not meant to fuel the hate train Manon has been receiving since Dream Academy. I'm just pointing out the observations I've made while watching Dream Academy and Popstar Academy. So, we all know Manon joined Dream Academy, and if we're being honest guys, she was directly cast for the group. She was selected for her looks, but it turned out she's a goldmine. She's already gifted in writing poems, lyrics, painting, modeling, and more. The T&D staff were sent to fucking Switzerland to specifically train her. And this was not done for the other contestants, from what I can remember. We got to know her family and friends more than anyone else. I mean, yes, she's the center of the group, but if you're being honest, We saw her house, we saw her living conditions in Switzerland. We met her family members, her very close friend Sophie. We even got to see the home of her wealthy aunt that lives in LA. Despite having no prior professional vocal or dance training, Manon showed that she has a very good pitch and is able to pick up dancing. I'd say relatively quickly. She kept breaking curfew and missing rehearsals due to either being sick or to reasons that are still unknown to us. They decided that Manon should move in with her aunt. I'd say the lack of transparency around her absences, whether it was because she underestimated the project's demands, her lack of passion, or ongoing illnesses like COVID. This left the watchers questioning her commitment, and this is what started the hate train against her, if you're being honest. While I absolutely criticize this behavior of breaking the rules, the way it was framed, made it seem like she didn't care to be there and deliberately skipped rehearsals, which felt very questionable. And even some of the coaches obviously did not like her. Missy did not like her, and Mitra. And Missy, her racist ass, she did not bother to show that she doesn't like her. She called Manon arrogant, not humbled, absolutely unconcerned about her teammates. Still, Missy could not kick her out because it's obvious Manon was the producer's favorite. And to keep making Manon look bad, coaches like Missy and Mitra blamed every issue Manon faced onto herself. And there is a clear proof that Manon was the producer's favorite. In the documentary, we saw that Lexi admitted that she was starting to lose herself. She started to miss rehearsals, and what happens? She gets kicked out. Mitra personally made this decision to let her go because her decision to miss rehearsals started to affect everyone. Manon also skipped rehearsals, but by contrast, this didn't lead to the same consequence. Like I've said before, the only good coach on this show was Sun. He was the only one who reassured Manon that they didn't need her to be the best, which further highlighted some kind of favoritism, I'd say. I also think Manon's bad relationship with the other contestants early on stemmed from a lack of communication. She didn't live with them, and since she kept missing rehearsals for multiple reasons, it seemed like the other girls barely got to know her. And this lack of connection made it much harder for all of the girls to resolve their issues with her. Though I won't ignore that the other girls were likely jealous of her and blamed her for their struggles. For example, when Manon returned after dealing with COVID, he was still sore and unwell. Azrella mentioned that the others find it hard to trust her, and she got dirty looks on Sophia. Looking back, it kind of makes sense that no one wanted Manon in the group during Mission 2 because, listen, they barely got to know this girl. She was often sick. She missed practice for whatever reason. She didn't live with them. And according to them, she didn't seem much reliable. And on top of that, there's, of course, jealousy. Racism, of course, because race always plays a role. And as Manon was the most popular member, another thing is, one important thing I have to mention is Popstar Academy fails to properly portray key aspects of Manon's story. Manon changed her attitude and started to give her all to this project, okay? She showed humility by apologizing to the other contestants for letting them down. She held herself accountable and begged for forgiveness. I do believe the producers of this Netflix documentary show aim to portray a positive character arc, Manon's growth, but they missed the mark by villainizing the center of the group. Isn't she supposed to be the most liked member? This attempt to portray character development was poorly executed. And the creators failed to consider that black people are not easily forgiven for their mistakes. They should have been aware that people are much harder on black people for bad behavior. Manon is still being criticized for things she did years ago, despite her growth. For some reason, black people are not allowed to be forgiven for their mistakes and willingness to change. They just continue to drag Manon for her past lack of commitment, despite her clear efforts to improve now. To Manon's defense though, I low-key understand why she lacked commitment at the beginning. She never wanted to be part of this project in the first place, yeah? She was convinced by the casting scouts to participate. She didn't have the same drive and motivation as the others to be in a girl group. However, later on, she realized that this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to become a superstar, and she changed for the better, The documentary also fails to highlight how talented Manon truly is. Think about it. In just a few years, a random girl from Zurich has managed to learn how to sing and dance and to debut in a girl group under one of the biggest music labels in the world. And now, she can keep up with her members who have been dancing since they were little. She learned how to sing and dance in a remarkably short amount of time. This requires not only willpower, but also an immense skill and talent. And we should praise her for everything she has achieved. Honestly, I can't even think of another idol who has shown so much improvement in such a short time frame. I have no choice but to talk about Adela next, Adela, a portrayal of a negative character arc. She was by far the most talented contestant on Dream Academy, and she was also a victim who was painted as a villain, in contrast to Manon. And like I said, y'all will never make me hate her. Adela raised those fucking kids on Dream Academy. She helped them improve so much. She showed way more patience than some of these coaches, especially with Hinari and Yua, for example. The evil editing, it still taints her fucking image. An example of this evil editing was the scene at the beach, and Adela was expressing how unfair it was that Manon was receiving so much love and grace despite barely putting in the effort. And she was ranting and ranting. And guess what Netflix did? They exploited her vulnerability to boost Manon and make Adela look bad. In that beach scene, Adela said that Manon is just pretty and she doesn't put in the effort and that it's so unfair. And I have to admit, that was me that she said that. I'm not going to defend that. But Adela in that scene was also angry about Manon not being penalized for her behavior like the others, which is fair. Her feelings are valid here and y'all have to admit that. Another example of evil editing was the scene at the consultation session the girls had with the psychologist, and Adela talked about her envy for Manon, and you can see that every other contestant was agreeing with her, yet the only person who was made out to be evil was Adela. Make it make sense. That was so weird. You see every other girl agreeing with what Adela said, but yet only Adela is evil. Adela was very obviously envious of Manon, but the hate she received for it was uncalled for. But I'm sure and hope Adela has worked on her jealousy since then. Now, what was the point of bringing Adela and Aisha to that beach during Mission 3 was filmed? It was to create a contrast between Manon and Adela's character development. While Manon got her fucking shit together, she held herself accountable and showed a positive character development, Adela is portrayed as a bitter loser who was still jealous of a pretty black girl doing better than her. This negative character arc turned Adela from a popular contestant into someone seen as envious and bitter. Another thing I realized through Adela's experience is I realized how people don't take anti-Slavic racism seriously. Many people online reduced Adela to just a white girl when she talked about people not voting for her because she's from a small country. And that was very insensitive, guys, and offensive. But Adela is right, Slavic people don't have much representation in the music industry, and they do deserve to have a Slavic pop star, We also have to talk about projection here. While scrolling through Twitter, I had a feeling a lot of people are projecting their frustration with talented, beautiful, blonde, white girls bullying them growing up onto Adela. Because the hate she's received makes absolutely no sense. That was just blatant misogyny. Blatant misogyny. Y'all were not criticizing her for the things she said about Manon. Y'all were just fucking misogynistic. Until this day, some Katseye fans still refuse to see that this whole thing is over, right? Almost all of the girls are friends with each other. Adela is friends with most of the Katseye members, and I'm sure Adela and Manon don't hate each other anymore and they have likely resolved their issues, I believe. Because if they hadn't, don't you think we would notice? Don't you think we'd notice that Manon wouldn't want to work and hang out with girls who are friends with people she hates? They said, "You can not make me hate this girl." Adela has shown through Popstar Academy that she does seem to have a big heart. She loves to help people around her, and she's extremely talented, so to be honest, I wish her the best for her career. Before I end this video, I want to talk about other weird things I noticed while watching Popstar Academy. Sorry, I couldn't find a good transition to this section, but hey, whatever. Number 1. Isn't that weird that Emily lives with her LA dance mentors? What do you mean? Like, they took this random little girl and now she lives with them in LA to be a dancer. I thought that's strange. I'm not familiar with the entertainment dance industry. Maybe that's common there. I thought that's weird as someone that knows nothing about it. Like I said, why was there no fucking translator provided for Yua and Mei and Hinari? As Rella had to work fucking overtime to help these girls. That shouldn't be happening. Why was that? Another thing is, what happened to Mia, Angelina, and Nargis? I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name. Why are they not seeing this documentary? I cannot wait for the girls' NDAs to expire and we will know what actually happened there, because why don't we get to know these girls? Why? Because we see them in these evaluations. Why not also talk about them, even if it's just one fucking scene? And last but not least, in one scene, I don't remember which one, the coaches were discussing things about the contestants. And there were headshots of the girls on a whiteboard with their names, ages, and weight written on it. Am I the only one who thought it was weird that their weight was included on their headshots? I would understand if it was their measurements, but why exactly the weight? Is this common in the entertainment industry? I don't know. I thought that's strange. Do y'all have maybe any idea what the point of that might be? Please help me out there. I'm just a bit confused. I know this is a weird way to end a video, but I couldn't find a good transition. But anyway, if you watch this video all the way through to this point, thank you so much for sticking around, to be honest. And if there's one thing I hope people take away from this video, is that at the end of the day, all of the girls involved in these programs were victims. They all suffered mentally and physically because the producers decided that risking their health and well-being for entertainment was acceptable. And also, almost all of the Katseye members are friends with Adela, so there's really no point in hating on her. If you dislike her, you might as well dislike Katseye as a whole, since almost all of them are spending time with her. Most importantly, you can't expect everyone to get along and be best friends. That's just reality. For example, when it was Manon's birthday, some people were surprised that not many contestants congratulated her. But let's not forget, guys, she did not interact much with the contestants earlier on. By the time she decided to change for the better, many of them were already gone. She didn't have the chance to rebuild those connections, and that's okay, you know? And then there's also jealousy, you know? Anyway, that's the end of my video, guys. Thank you to everyone who watched this video till this point. I wish you guys happy holidays, and for those who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. And see you next time, where I'll be talking more about the topics that are stuck inside my mind. Bye!